You ever feel like no matter how much you work, you're still having an empty bank account? You're not alone. Most people are making simple money mistakes that are keeping them ultimately living paycheck to paycheck. In today's video, I'm going to show you the 5 mistakes that people are making with their money, and most importantly, how you can fix it starting today. Let's get it. Mistake number 1, not having a budget. Now, why is this important? Most people underestimate how the small things they spend money on tend to add up. If you think about these $5 and $10 coffees, if you think about Netflix, Hulu subscriptions, if you think about gym memberships that you may not be using, and if you think about fast food that you may pick up the kids 3, 4, 5 times a week, all of this begins to add up. And when you look at your monthly statement, and if you aren't, you should, you start to see that, hey, you could be spending anywhere from $200 to $500, even $1,000 on these small expenses per month. Now, this is just one example of showing you that how living without a budget can ultimately have you living paycheck to paycheck. Now, if you're like me, you're probably surrounded by people that are telling you, hey, I just can't make a budget. Or you know what, a budget is too restrictive. But in all honesty, the less that you make, the more a budget is important. I repeat, the less you make, the more important a budget is to you and your success in the future when it comes to finances. So in reality, a good budget actually gives you more financial freedom and lets you know what you can afford without stress. Now, how do you fix this? Look, there's tons of budgeting styles out there, but I just prefer KISS. Keep it simple, stupid. We're gonna go with a 50-30-20 rule, okay? 50% is gonna be on your necessities. That means rent or mortgage. That means food, bills, utilities, etc. That is what 50% of your take-home income should go towards. The next 30%. 30% is so you can have a little fun. Maybe entertainment, maybe out to eat, maybe shopping, whatever it is that you prefer to do with that 30% is up to you, but you limit yourself to 30% of your take-home pay being for this type of fun and entertainment. 20% should go to your savings/investing, okay? So 20% of your take-home pay should be savings or investing. Now, to go over this again, 50%, we have necessities. 30%, we have fun. And 20%, we have savings and investing. So to give you an example, let's say you have a couple that makes $4,000 a month a piece. You have one person that actually follows this 50-30-20 rule. And so on that 20%, by the end of the year, they actually saved $9,600. Do you think the other person was able to get ahead by doing this? Therefore, it is really important that you go ahead and make a budget and know where everything is going. It just keeps things that much simple. And if you really want to go ahead and crank down, you can actually flip the 20% and the 30% to make it where 20% goes to entertainment and fun and 30% goes to savings and investing. It's up to you. So next, we have mistake number 2, and that's relying on credit cards for spending. Look, if you have a $2,000 limit on a credit card at a 25% interest rate, then that means each year that $2,000 can be costing you $500 a year. You have to understand that with credit companies, they make money by lending you money and charging you absorbent interest rates, okay? These interest rates are what's going to keep you in debt. With these cards, making only the minimum payment will keep you in debt for years. Now, common ways people get trapped in credit card debt is that they may go ahead and see these low minimum payments and think that's all they need to pay for the month. If you keep these minimum payments low, then all you're going to do is just keep on having to pay interest on that total balance for years to come. Now, another way that people get stuck in credit card debt is by lifestyle creep. They'll see the limit that they have on these credit cards and they'll go ahead and start spending on clothes or entertainment, vacations, cars, you name it. But they can't actually afford these things. And lastly, you have to understand that using a credit card every day isn't necessarily a bad thing. The bad thing is that you need to pay the balance off. If you're using this credit card for everyday purchases, but then using the minimum, then you are going to always stay in debt. So now, how do you fix mistake number 2? Credit card debt. Well, what you need to do is go ahead and start with one of 2 methods. Now, the easiest here is the snowball method. With the snowball effect, you're paying off your lowest balances first. That way you can see small wins and it makes you feel good. But it's most important that you keep pretending that you have that debt by applying that payment that you paid off to the next biggest debt that you have, and applying that payment to the next biggest debt. And before you know it, that's why it's called the snowball method, because you're still paying out the same amount of debt each month, but you're paying down these balances faster because you're pretending that you still have that there by knocking it all out. Now, the second method is the avalanche method, which could be a little bit more difficult for other people, just from a esteem or emotional standpoint. But whichever card has the highest interest rate, you actually pay that down first. Now, if we're being logical here, that actually saves you the most money, but I understand how it can be easier for people to pick the snowball method just because these small wins can make you be a little bit more consistent. Now, another way to fix this problem is that by whatever it is that you are using your credit card for each month, you're making sure that you're paying that balance off completely at the end of the month. If you tend to forget things, go ahead and make sure that you're setting automatic payments so you never have to pay any late fees. Now, to give you an example of credit card debt, just think of someone buying a laptop that may be $1,000 with a credit card. They only pay the minimum payment of $30, $40 a month. And before you know it, they're actually having to pay $1,800 on this laptop. Do you feel like this laptop that is listed at $1,000 is worth $1,800? Probably not. But if you're making minimum payments, then that's exactly what you're telling the credit card companies. You feel like it's okay to pay $1,800 a month for this laptop that is only worth $1,000. Now we have mistake number 3, and that's not paying yourself first. Most people, they'll go ahead and see their check, pay their bills, they'll go ahead and do some spending, and saving is a last priority. Some people don't even save at all. This is a problem because if you don't get in the habit of putting money aside to save and making that transition to where you're automatically saving or investing every single month, then no matter what lump sum of money you run into, no matter what promotion you get at your job, if you're keeping these same habits, you're going to have these same problems when you run into bigger sums of money. Now, how do we fix this problem? First, you need to automate your saving and investing. So that way, the money that you will be saving and investing, you're not even seeing touch your checking account. That's big because a lot of people see that money and they feel like they have more to spend. But if it's already taken out of your account, then you know what you have to work with. Guys, even if it's only $25, $50 a week, over time, that adds up. And the last thing I'd say on this is treating your savings like it's just non-negotiable. There's no way that you would miss out on paying your mortgage or paying your rent. So treat this the same way because the future you will thank you for it, or the future you can hate you for it. You pick. Now, just to let you know how important this is, we can use an example of somebody that's 25, saving $200 a month at an average of an 8% annual return. By the time they hit retirement, they have over $600,000. Now, you could use that same person just 10 years later that's 35 years old that decides to save $200 or invest $200 a month at an average 8% annual return, and they only have $270,000. They're missing out on over $300,000 just with a 10-year gap. Now, can they get to that point? Of course, but they would have to invest more money. The point is, if you get used to saving and investing early, the older you will thank you for it. And I'll say this one last quote just before we go to mistake number 4. I used to work valet. So there was a guy that drove up in a Bentley. I left it at the front just because I thought he would do me a favor for looking out for him and tip me a whole bunch of money. When he came out, he only gave me $5. And I know that may sound like, a complaint, but in reality, most people who came with these flashy cars, they would tip at least $20, $40, sometimes even $100. So that $5 seemed to be pretty cheap. He shook my hand and he looked me exactly in the eyes. He told me this: "You want to know how you get a lot of money, son? You keep it. Always remember that." And of course, at that point in time, I just thought he was just some cheap old man. But in actuality, I see everything he's saying is correct. In order to get money, you have to learn how to keep it first, or you're going to be giving everybody else money. So now we have mistake number 4, and that's buying a car you can't afford. Did you know that as soon as you drive a car off the lot, it loses 15 to 20%? That's a lot. As soon as you drive it off the lot, guys. Most importantly, if you're having these car notes, which we know people have that are $600, $800, or even $1,000 a month, that is keeping you from saving more and investing more. I say more, it could be keeping you from saving and investing at all. Now, a lot of ways that people get tricked into buying cars that they can't afford is just by looking at the low monthly payment, but not even realizing the interest rate or the years on the car that they're paying. Guys, it's no point in getting a car if you have to get the car at a term of 13, 14, 15% interest and you're getting it for 7 years. Another thing that might get people confused is they may look on social media and see people saying that these cars are investments. Guys, there's only a few cars out here that are investments, and I'm not going to dive into that today, but usually the car that me and you are looking at is a depreciating asset as soon as you drive it off the lot. The more wear and tear you put on it, the less that it's worth. Now, some ways to go ahead and fix this is go ahead and go by the 10 to 15% rule. Pretty much what that means is the car payment, gas, and insurance should only be costing you less than 15% of your take-home pay. Another way to avoid so much depreciation is by buying a car that is 3 to 5 years old. Cars usually lose the most value their first 3 years. So if you're able to go ahead and get a nice vehicle that's 3 to 5 years old that still has relatively low mileage, then you're actually getting a win or a steal. And lastly, I know most people can't pay cash for a car, which would be ideal. So if you can't, then finance a car for 36 to 48 months. That's 3 to 4 years, guys. Anything more than that just means that you're buying too much car. Now, an example of buying a car you can't afford could be someone buying a brand new car that costs $40,000. They get it on a 7-year plan and they end up paying $55,000 to $60,000 for the car. Now, the second person ends up buying a vehicle that's used, low mileage, and they just bought it for $20,000 either in cash or on a short-term loan. They end up saving $35,000 to $40,000 more than the person who bought that brand new car for $40,000 and ended up paying $55,000 to $60,000. In this case, who do you think can start growing their wealth faster and more? It would be the second person, because they could use that $35,000 to $40,000 to make them more money. Sometimes we have to have a reality check with ourselves, guys, and sometimes with other people that we love and know. Would you rather be driving a fancy car and be completely broke? Or would you rather be driving an average car and be financially free? It's an easy choice for me. And now you finally made it to mistake number 5, and that is thinking that you'll save later. Now, why is this the biggest problem of all? Usually, people who always say that they'll end up saving later never save at all, and this comes back to haunt them when they get older. Also, you have to realize that time is actually your greatest asset that you have. The sooner that you can start saving and investing, the more time that money has to compound and grow. Now, to fix this, I just go ahead and start with automatic savings and investing. Maybe it's $10, $20, $30, $40 every paycheck, but you get used to it gradually over time and being able to adjust to how much money that you actually should be living off of. And second, I would go ahead and treat this like a bill. I would treat it as if my future and the life that I want to have is non-negotiable. And so if I have to do these things in order to have that brighter future and that financial freedom, then this is just what I have to do. I was told this powerful quote, and it was actually when I was thinking about starting this channel. Someone told me, I'm only going to be as young as I am today. I have to start now because I'm always going to be getting older. You can apply that same quote to your money and your finances. You're only going to be as young as you are today. As time goes on, you keep getting older, and we are all running out of time at some point. So now you have the 5 mistakes that keep people broke. But fortunately for you, you know how to fix them. Remember, small changes make a big difference over time. If you found this video helpful, hit the like button, subscribe, and turn on your notifications to get more videos like these. I love sharing investing tips, money tips, and budgeting tips for people just like you and myself. And in the comments, go ahead and let me know, which one of these 5 money mistakes have you made? Doing this can help all of us grow from zero to wealth together. Until next time, I'm your host, Marcus, and you're here on Zero to Wealth. I'll see you on the next episode.